As for man, of course he doesn't even consider himself an animal, which, considering the way he considers them, is probably, all things considered, the only considerate thing about him. Cleveland Amory. When people discover that someone is a vegetarian, they often immediately seek to know why. I'm always at a bit of a loss when people ask this of me, as it wasn't a conscious choice. It happened organically, over time. I'm also reticent because, for all my brash bloviating as a writer, when it comes to personal interactions, I'm a strong believer in people making their own decisions, their own mistakes. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, all right. No arm twisting. I have been a vegan for a decade and a half because I recognize that if we all had to kill each animal we consumed, 90% of meat eaters would become vegetarians. Does this mean we're just weenier than our great-grandparents? A bit, but hopefully it means more. There's a second reality that would turn meat eaters into vegetarians. Seeing firsthand how that meat got to your plate. Chemical saturations, crap infestations, a diet more perverse than anything Stephen King could dream up. If you've made it this far into the 21st century without knowing the conditions under which our feed animals horrifically live and excruciatingly die, it can only be for one reason. You do not want to know. Throw a farmer from 1950 into a time machine. Now, this is a human who is not squeamish. For them, castrating someone without anesthetic is just a day at the office. But you plop that farmer into the middle of a modern factory farm or slaughterhouse, and he or she would recoil in disgust and disbelief. I don't want to dwell on factory farms, though, because torture and genocide aren't actually anywhere near the heart of the reasons for my not eating other animals. But a little education is appropriate. It's quiz time. Number 1, how many animals does the average meat eater consume in their lifetime? A, 210. B, 2,100. C, 21,000. And the answer is C. Imagine if we did have to kill all the animals that we eat. A pile of 21,000 skeletons out behind the house. There are 2 breeds of chicken, layers and broilers. Are all the broilers, quote, useful? I suppose so. Are all the layers useful? Well, no. I'm thinking that male layer chickens might not be particularly, quote, useful. Would you care to hazard a guess as to what happens to all the male layer chicks born every year? Every 250 million fuzzy peeping one of them? I'm not going to tell you. Maybe you'll look it up. Maybe the answer you find won't give details, the kinds of details that factory farms would rather you never know. Maybe you'll have a new perspective on the 40 million yearly human abortions. Number 2, who creates the legal definition of what constitutes cruelty to farm animals? A, the federal government. B, state governments. C, food corporations. The answer is C. Mind you, if the only thing standing between me and starvation is that dog, there's going to be Chihuahua taco tonight. I might even eat your cousin Saglara if push comes to shove. But short of that, I understand that other animals are thinking, feeling, social creatures, just like me. If I would be uncomfortable choking an actual chicken, I'm damn sure not going to chow down after somebody else does the dirty work. There's a word for that: hypocrisy. Now, meat eaters often live with multiple hypocrisies. How hard is it to imagine someone eating a burger while on their lap sits a cat? They would be enraged to find someone abusing. or someone digesting a pig while crying for a turtle they ran over. Number 3, what percentage of the animals a shrimp trawler catches are not shrimp, which they then throw back overboard dead? A, 25%, B, 55%, C, 85%. And the answer is C! Number 4, what percentage of the Earth's surface is devoted to livestock? A, 0.35%, B, 3.5%, C, 35%. And the answer is C! We kill hundreds of billions of land animals for food every year. Hundreds of billions. How many sea creatures? Unknown. Trillions. How long do you think this planet will sustain that? Farms consume 2/3 of the world's fresh water. And within 10 years, as much as 2/3 of humanity may face water shortages. And the shit? Farm shit is 160 times more toxic than normal shit. In the U.S. alone, 30,000 miles of rivers are contaminated. It spills into the ocean and creates dead zones, areas where no animal can live. There are currently 405 dead zones worldwide, the largest about the size of Maine. Factory farms make the Gulf oil spill look like Timmy peeing in the public pool. Number 5, you can save more water by not eating a pound of meat than by not showering for 6 A, days, B, weeks, C, months. The answer is C, months. You can't put the genie of knowledge back in the bottle. Once you know that it takes 3 to 6 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of meat, only by sticking your head in the sand can you avoid the realization that if we ate the grain instead, we'd have 3 to 6 times as much food. Eating that burger suddenly becomes part of the reason why 16,000 children will die of starvation today. If you say that starvation is just about distribution, I say, how long do you think we'll even have the luxury of being able to actually do something about it? The number of people in the world without enough food? 900 million, with 250,000 more every single day. But it's okay. The high death rate offsets the high growth rate. A little. Number 6, a meat eater is responsible for how times many more greenhouse gas emissions than a vegan? 2 times, A. B, 3 times, C, 7 times. The answer is C, 7 times. Santa's workshop is slipping into the sea, while factory farms crank out more greenhouse gas than all forms of transportation combined. Number 7. How long have humans been eating meat? A, 1% of our species history. B, 10% of our species history. C, 100% of our species history. A, 1%. Now, some ask why I don't eat dairy, and to them I say, imagine aliens taking over the planet and informing us that human eggs and milk are a delicacy to them, and that they can remove these from our females without killing them. Do you imagine we'd all say, "Okie fine"? If these aliens put us in cages and genetically manipulated us the way that we have manipulated chickens, before long the average human would weigh 300 pounds, a size that we would achieve at 10 years of age. So much for not dwelling on factory farms. I tried. I really did. Now, some resort to biblical justification, saying that God gave us dominion over the beasts. If you play that game, I will whop you upside the head with your own flawed text. Does the Bible say anything about how we treat those under our power? Well, wait, I know there's some little thing. Oh, yes, the last judgment. We shall be judged by how we treat the least among us. Matthew 25. They were talking about humans, you say? It seems not so very long ago that a certain idealistic new country thought that if you weren't white, you weren't human at all, or you were at most 3/5 of a human. So I'd say humanity still hasn't mastered the intricacies of what constitutes the least among us. Bonus! True or false? Speed round! Number 1, layer chickens spend their entire lives in a cage the size of a piece of paper. False. The cages are actually smaller than a piece of paper. Number 2, most salmon spend their entire lives in a small tub, so polluted that their eyes and asses bleed. False! Their asses don't bleed. You think restaurants would be allowed to serve food that had been bleeding from the ass? What are we, barbarians? They do, however, bleed from the eyes. Number 3, a dairy diet lowers your chance of getting osteoporosis. False! Non-dairy countries have lower osteoporosis rates. Number 4, the primary food source for 99% of human history was bugs. True! Did you ever stop to think about how hard a fish resists being pulled from the water? With a metal shaft piercing its face, it struggles to the last breath. Did you ever, for one glimmer of a second, question why the fish struggles so mightily? Do you assume they don't understand that death is at stake? Are you too trained to think of that struggle in terms of entertainment? Did you ever stop to think what a fish's idea of God might be like? Maybe we are their gods, powerful creatures who live in a realm far beyond their grasp. If that were the case, then their religious institutions would be even more perverse than our own. Imagine what our churches would be like if God occasionally threw a holy rope from heaven to yank one of us bloodily out of this life forever. Or imagine if our relationship with fish were reversed. If any time we went near water, there was a possibility that a lasso might suddenly burst from the bosom of the depths to snare us and pull us under forever. Can you imagine the struggles we'd have holding on to friends or trees or anything? Talk about moments made for America's Funniest Home Videos. It'd be hysterical if it weren't heartbreaking. Anyway, I think about these things when I think about the least among us. And I hunt the aisles for the elusive Tofurkey. You can't find them in every store. They're crafty little critters. I made the mistake of naming my Tofurkey one year, though. When it came time for the oven, I pulled poor little Tony right back out. He's been with me ever since. In all truth, he makes a crappy pet. He doesn't come when I call. And if you think turkey farts are bad, well, of course, he still sleeps with one eye open on Thanksgiving Eve. So I feel kind of bad about that. The end.